Greetings, live now. We are allegedly live. Thanks for joining us.
We are live.
It's really happening, finally happening. We're glad to have you here. If you're watching this at 10 a.m. Pacific, you are live with us. We have a very cool panel, very cool conversation coming up. If you have any questions at any time, you'll see a little ask a question button somewhere down there-ish. Go ahead and click on that. We'll see them as they come in. We'll have a dedicated Q&A at the end. So if we don't get to you in real time, we'll save some time at the end. So today, the modern CX tech stack. I was worried I'd trip over that. I didn't. Yes. So how Brooklinen and Red Route deliver better customer experiences through call automation. We're very glad to have our crew here. I believe there we are. Just Opus Research, that is Derek and myself. You probably know us from conversational AI, documentation, research and analysis, and different events that we hold. Today, we're lucky to have Brian Schiff and Jack Lorenzen with us to talk about their partnership and how they kind of got into the weeds of call automation and improved the Brooklinen customer experience. So thank you all for joining. I expect we'll have a good show today. All right.
Well, actually, real quick, I'll introduce myself, just say a couple words, and have Jack and Brian just mention. So yes, I'm Derek Top, the research director with Opus, and Scott was on point in terms of our coverage areas. We do produce reports. We've been covering self-service and automation for many years now around voice technologies and also AI and chatbots, and really excited for this new world that's really opening up in terms of the ability to have voice assistants put into place that can be business effective soon, and also I believe providing some great case studies. So we're excited to kind of learn more about what Brooklinen and Red Route are doing. But yeah, just to reinforce some of the coverage we've done over the years. So Jack, why don't you tell us something about yourself first?
Awesome, thanks, Derek. What's up, guys? My name is Jack. I am a senior manager of customer experience here at Brooklinen. So some more on Brooklinen. We are really proud to say that we offer luxury products that are, at affordable price points, which is something that really attracted me to the business since when I started back in 2016. We're also proud to say that we're one of the largest D2C startups in the US. In terms of our product mix, we offer everything from bedroom products, bathroom products, into loungewear, accessories, and we also have a marketplace called Spaces where we offer other vendors' products as well. We have some really cool stuff coming in 2022 that I'm sure we'll talk about today, but really happy to be here. So thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks. Brian.
I'm Brian, one of the founders and CEO at Red Route. Also very happy to be here. I think this is a pretty exciting group between Opus and their long-standing expertise and insights on the space, and then Brooklinen, as Jack touched on. Just the speed with which they've scaled in kind of this current modern day and age. And then, coming to the table and talking about our perspective and how all of us are seeing everything. So pretty excited to be here. Red Route is a voice automation startup. We just closed a $6.5 million seed round. You can go and read about that on TechCrunch. But look forward to diving into everything today.
And I'm very excited the power company decided to climb up the pole outside of my house right now during this webinar. Sorry for the distraction. It is important to mention that this is actually a companion piece. So we have a white paper coming out about Red Route, specifically highlighting the technology, the value proposition. So that's coming to the Opus Research site soon, and we'll amplify that on our social channels. Look forward to that. And then obviously Brooklinen, I mean, it's a huge brand name. Like in the past, I'm a Sirius XM subscriber. I love podcasts. And if you're in either of those environments, you cannot avoid Brooklinen, but in a good way.
I love to hear it.
Yeah. So it's pretty exciting. So, okay, let's jump into the agenda. So we got through the intros. We do want to talk about what exactly do we mean by the modern CX tech stack. So we'll talk about that. And then we've recently had we partnered with a company on a voice assistant survey to kind of see what people's opinions and perspectives were about using voice assistants, kind of full stop, voice assistants of any kind. So we'll talk about that. And then I definitely want to get into the kind of Brooklinen history, how it started, and then bringing in Red Route in terms of how it's going. So that's what we'll do today. And I imagine it'll be very conversational. And we do look forward to, so Jack and Brian have not seen some of the survey results. So guys, feel free to jump in if you have any comments on what we're about to show. If you have any additional input, or, Brian, from the Red Route perspective, feel free to jump in at any time.
Absolutely.
All right. So what do we mean by the modern CX tech stack? So what I'm specifically excited about when it comes to Red Route and Brooklinen is that you're like what we call digital natives, meaning like you don't have the kind of the baggage of old legacy systems. You were born on the internet. You started on the internet. You're not, there's no like on-prem to cloud situation for either of you. And then Jack, I know for you, it's important that anything in your stack interoperates, plays nicely. Whether it's low code, no code connectors, it has to play nicely. You're not interested in like a 6-month MVP trying to do some bespoke integration. Also, and then this speaks to Red Route, deploying it rapidly and simply, back to the low code, no code, understanding the back-end systems, being experts in that as Red Route is, and being able to deploy and scale quickly. And then above and beyond just giving people answers, it's about automating outcomes. It's about transactions. It's about having some kind of conclusion to your question or your request at the end of the interaction. And then, of course, most importantly, that it supports voice, the most obvious and natural way of managing and reacting to our world, and doing that in a meaningful way. So I'll pause there. Does anybody have anything else they want to add in terms of their perspective on what the characteristics are, or maybe Brian, from your perspective, if you have any additional comments?
No, I think that this hits it on the head in a lot of ways. And for us, strong presence in the e-commerce vertical, and part of what's exciting about that is the level of innovation that is going on in that industry. And as we were getting into the space, Brooklinen, Jack here, was one of our original customers, and that was the perfect initial window into what does this space in the market look like? How are they thinking about things? What are their expectations, right? We were even on the prep call yesterday before this, and we were talking about like the interoperability and the integration between systems and the ease with which you can turn things on and reach value. And Jack was like, I didn't realize that wasn't the norm. So I think that's certainly a big piece of the puzzle, and it's it's an exciting space to kind of be in there in e-commerce where a lot of this innovation is happening.
And Brian, I'm actually excited that maybe a tiny bit embarrassed, but very excited that I did have that point of view where we're gonna talk about the inception of our partnership a little bit later on, I'm sure, but like the ease that you guys really just made your way into our digital experience, and how quickly that happened and when it happened for us, which was right before Black Friday, Cyber Monday 2020, and I'm sure we'll discuss that a little bit later on. But it really just was so easy, and with our help desk in mind, that of course brings all of our interactions into one place. Which, once again, I'm happy that that's the norm for us, but I understand that it's not the norm for everyone.
Yeah, and I would add that like this modern CX tech stack, it is hard to say, does touch on all four key pillars to what we call the conversational cloud, something that we're actually developing right now into a larger IntelliView, a bigger report, which does kind of bring in the legacy folks in telephony and for and not to mention the behemoths of Google, Amazon, and whatnot are all trying to touch into this world of the conversational cloud. But I mean the four kind of main pillars are around routings. I mean, like so voice. Here's the channel that comes in. Self-service, which obviously around voice and on voice automation. And I'm sorry. Then then automation, which ties into the kind of the workflows, the transactional outcomes, the kind of the services that Red Route is providing, and the services that Brooklinen needs are tie into backend systems, tie into other business needs. Then all that's based on is on what we call intelligence or conversational intelligence. So the ability to kind of understand what's being said, track it in the right way, provide that right, resource, that task, whatever that service is, and then make sure that that intelligence is being there's to supplement both that service and also optimize the system to kind of keep learning, kind of keep getting better. I haven't mentioned AI yet, which is fine, but there is a machine learning element, right? Exactly. And it does, the system itself needs to understand it's getting better, and that's based on use, it's based on scaling, it's based on the ability to kind of keep providing the business outcomes that's expected. So yeah, just to let you know, that's kind of a preview of our conversational cloud, and really it's really has some I think pretty interesting characteristics that this tech stack is providing.
Yeah, I think the other thing that's interesting to the fifth bullet point there around calling out voice, right? Yeah. Voice is one of those things where we kind of see in our day-to-day, right? Some people you talk to and it's like, oh, is voice dying? And is the phone disappearing? And for us, we look at what's happening in the broader voice space with Alexa and with Google and everything that is going on there. And we're like, no, this is actually like the beginning of the game with voice. And when we look at voice as just an interface, and we say, okay, like new interface, right? You have mobile, you have web, you have these other kind of ways of interacting with technology. Here now you have this voice interface coming in, and what is it good for, right? What is voice uniquely good at? And what that quickly goes to is the speed and ease, which you touched on. And then it's like, okay, where is speed and ease valued? And it's a small skip and a hop to looking at customer service and customer experience, because ultimately that's what the people that are reaching out are looking for.
Nice. Yeah, that's also a perfect transition to some of the survey results that we thought were worth sharing. Derek, if you want to.
Yeah, just on the next slide here, we recently put together a survey of 400 respondents in North America, working with some survey partners, and looking, the larger questions were about voice to Brian, exactly, about ASR, about automated speech recognition, and the ability to kind of use voice and speech recognition technologies. Among that, we asked, one of the questions was around voice assistants, and that's how we call it. When we mean voice assistants, and I'll let the panel kind of decide what the right terms are. We do mean automation. We do mean voice bot is another word that'll come up here, you'll see. But the ability to really have that provided, that self-service through using voice in a customer service and a customer support type of environment. And yeah, among the questions we asked those is like, what are they good for? And the questions, I'm sorry, the responses were clearly around ease of use and simple tasks. So answer FAQs, really to kind of get a simple answer that I could not get anywhere else. I couldn't find on the website. It's driving me mad, but I can get it quickly through you, or hours, or where's my package, or like those are kind of other things as well. That's among the service requests, which are equally among the most popular, and really I think that speaks to the use cases that are available, that are out there right now, is really understanding how to provide a support channel 24/7 in a way that is providing a good experience, both in terms of just the user experience, but also from just getting my stuff done. And so I think that's what we're seeing is emphasized in these responses here. I don't know if that sparks any thoughts. Does that make sense to what you're seeing out there, like Brian, in terms of your customers, and then like Jack, as far as your goals, as far as what you want to start with?
Sure. Brian, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think for me, right, we always think about it as customer service is a task on people's to-do list, right? It's something that came up that they need to deal with. It's not like an entertainment or enjoyment driven thing. It's a task that they need to get done. And tasks are all about speed and ease. So like we're seeing that thread now popping up, right? The task-based things coming up here as the focus area in your research. And and it's what we also see, and kind of why we, right, it's that match between, right, we look at voice and we look at customer service, and we see match made in heaven, all based around that premise.
I also think it's interesting that FAQs is the top driver here, because that really does speak to our customers. Because when we brought Red Route on in November of 2020, I mean, we were lucky enough to even see business in the first place. So I wanted to first call that out. Just having a successful year of business in 2020 was something that we're really, really lucky to say. So let me just make that very clear before I jump in any further.
Sure.
So, but one of our customers that we really had to get to know more from a persona driven, POV would be a customer that is a little bit on the older side, not a brick and mortar loyalist, someone that really didn't want to shop online, so that they were really used to using the phones channel, because people will say phones are antiquated. And I will tell you a bunch of stats of why that's not true. I know Brian will too. But really just telling a customer where to go find the return process on our site, or really just, hey, where is how do I submit a warranty claim? Just really simple tasks, but that are really, really helped out by voice assistants. So I totally agree, and it totally applies to our customer base as well.
Yeah.
And then of course it ties into the broader picture of your operation. And it's like, hey, there's some portion of the requests that are coming in that are these simple, right, tier 1 type things. And then there's all the other things that are coming in where it's like, hey, maybe there's an upsell opportunity here. Maybe there's a like long-time loyal customer that has like a really serious problem, and like there's a brand element of like, we need to like represent the brand and like coddle this customer in this moment. And in a contact center, right, where like limitations on staffing is the problem, like being able to take all of these simple things and get them off of the plate, right? Get the quick answer that the customer wants to their FAQ, to their service request. And at the same time, on the other end of it, free up the staff that you do have to like really be able to lean into those important situations that require them. Like that's just, right. People often talk about like, what's the balance between person and machine? And that's really an example of like both sides playing to their strength in order to, like, from the consumer side, the people, they're getting everything that they want, right? Quick answers, boom, bang. Longer, like we need to sort this out, having the freedom and somebody there to go and do it with.
And that's a huge theme from today, is just walking that fine line between what we can automate and what we feel comfortable automating, and where my agents really need to spend their time, which is with customers, as you just went through, Brian, really do need our attention, and really do want to spend a few minutes on the phone, and really do want to hear someone's voice, and really do want to talk and share their sentiments, right? Which is still important. But when we can automate, we will. Absolutely.
Right. Well, I think that's, and I'm gonna use that to jump to the next slide, which we teeing up these topics, and we're gonna get into them a little bit more, I know, but just around the perceptions that are out there for voice assistants. And I think I want to speak to both what the goals of why you would do it in the first place, and then also this idea of more use cases that Brian brought up around cross-selling and upselling, but that's on the next slide. But here's a couple more just, kind of guidance questions. We were surprised to hear that a majority of people actually do like talking to voice bots, again, like automated voice assistants, as we call them. And I think that speaks to, a couple things. That's there's a comfort level that is already there when it comes to speech recognition technologies, and to talking to your speakers, your smart speakers. I don't want to say their name here, or talking to your car, or talking to the business that you have, business that you use. And so I think that's my perception is why I think that's positive. But it also just shows that there isn't necessarily a huge challenge there to get that set up for your business. People are going to be already comfortable talking to them, or talking to a machine. On the second one, go ahead.
I was just chiming. I think that the word that's used here is important, right? The fact that you guys are referring to it as voice bot, right? Obviously, when you talk about voice bots for customer service over the phone, the instinct, at least from the consumer side, is to think about like old IVR systems, right? That have been around going back forever, and like you can find like long like Reddit threads online and like meme accounts on Instagram that are like people making fun of and like disparaging those systems, which I think like nobody liked talking to those. But then when you talk about this new age of voice assistants coming in, voice bots, whatever kind of term you want to use, and right, it's in this very early phase where it's like there's not even necessarily a category name on it, and you call it voice bot here, and somebody else is calling it something else over there, and it's still kind of in that early stage of development. But one of the things that's clear is right, there's huge adoption in just these consumer devices that are being put in people's homes, and those are like people are choosing to use that from a enjoyment standpoint, and they're now seeking out to have a conversation as you're seeing in this data. And that's an important thing that we talk about in juxtaposing the old with the new and talking about like what voice looks like going forward and what that means.
Yeah, it implies a better experience. I mean, like something means more accurate, less latency, like the kind of typical factors you might look at in terms of how people talk to machines. And I think there are technological improvements that are there, and those are being shown in some of these kind of results. Just on the next one it's around voice responses being short and purpose driven. Again, I think that is just in some ways just expected. You're there to get something done. You want to get an answer quickly. You want to make sure that I'm moving forward in my conversation or in my task or whatever it is. I think that the respondents there thought that that's accurate. So just in the interest of time, I'm going to go ahead and just move to our last data slide. Then we'll get into the larger conversation. And I think so. This first data point on the left, and Brian, you mentioned this too. That there's this perception that people disagree that they have limited applications. Meaning voice assistants can do more than what I think we anticipate right now. And we're just at the tip of the iceberg when it comes to emerging opportunities around cross-selling, upselling, more business insights, the ability to kind of provide personalization, the ability to kind of get into deeper levels of that customer experience, and that especially that kind of retail experience that I think is just starting here. But at the same time, people do think that voice assistants are difficult and costly to build and maintain. So that has been true, and I think this harkens back to the notions of this modern CX tech stack that the legacy systems require a level of maintenance and licensing and personnel and staff and resources, and the kind of the inertia to overcome to move that to a newer, more flexible modern stack is a challenge for among a lot of enterprises and a lot of businesses that are out there. So the perception is going to be like, no matter what, this is going to cost a lot. So I think that's emphasizes some of the same points.
Having had to optimize and maintain an IVR, for example, it feels like a very colossal, large project. And I think with this one and this couple slides before, in terms of seeing where like sales ranked, which was like I think around 30%, it seems as we get to know Red Route and others and kind of see where all this is heading, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised very quickly over the coming years, you would start to see like sales enablement climbing in the percentage, or how people perceive of voice assistants and their ability to build and maintain, that number would come down as we kind of come out of the legacy solutions and move toward these more focused automated opportunities. So cool. I think just a reminder. So for those of you watching, there is a questions button. Feel free to click on that and send us any questions. I have the panel open here so I can see them in real time. If they're contextual to the conversation, I'll bring them in. Otherwise, we have some QA at the end. But I think at this point, if I'm not mistaken, we can just we just fill the screen with our handsome faces. Because I think there we go. So this is the part
up close and personal.
So Jack, you mentioned it. We talked about this yesterday too. We started talking about, we kind of got into empathy a little bit in terms of like when you want a human to talk to a human. Sure. And so maybe we can kind of bring us back to like where you were kind of leading up to the partnership with Red Route in terms of the perspective on the customer experience. Do they need to talk to somebody? When do they need to talk to somebody? And, that kind of ramp up to the point where you realize we have to do something different?
Sure. Thanks for asking. Excuse me. So, like I said, we were very lucky to have a big 2020. I think when people started spending more time at home, they were starting to look around and say, hey, I actually do need new bedding, or hey, I do need new towels, loungewear, whatever it may be. So that was an opportunity that we really, really wanted to take. And of course we did. Our business was successful. However, when it comes to my personal job, which is really managing our agents from a people management perspective, it was really, really hard to scale my team while the business was scaling. So I really want to be clear that scaling of the business for a while always meant that I needed to scale my team. And that's when this idea of automation started coming in. And it wasn't really something that our business is really, or our CX team is really, really like gung-ho about, is automation in general, because we prefer human to human interactions. It took me about 2 intro calls with the Red Route team for me to really see like, okay, wait, there's an opportunity here to automate certain very specific interactions on the phone. I was scared at first, and I will say scared because human to human contact is especially important on the phone. So I was like, I don't think there's an opportunity here. And then when we kind of really started talking about it, and I started really thinking about how my team was doing from an emotional perspective and from a burnout perspective during COVID, it really was like, let's take a risk. Let's say, even if you're automating a certain small percentage of our interactions, and we started at small and now we're really building on that, but even just automating any part of our experience from a phone's perspective has helped us save money on our agent costs, and also our costs as a business, just interaction costs in general. But it also helped them not feel burnt out. And it also gave certain customers really, really quick solutions when they didn't even realize that was the type of solution they were looking for. They were expecting to speak to someone. They picked up the phone. Red Route could tell them exactly where their order was, with tracking information in mind. So that was a really cool automation perk, and that was a really cool core competency of Red Route right off the bat. So that's kind of where we were in terms of like the inception of our partnership. But I do want to talk. I do want to talk about some of the conversations that we had just to start. I mean, I did talk a little bit about how I was a little skeptical, but I really want to go into how we actually got started and how quick and easy it was for both teams.
Yeah, and as we do that, just to dive into the Red Route perspective,
Sure,
the challenge and kind of, Brian, the aha moment for you. I mean, so you've been around since 2017, not that long in the scheme of things. And obviously you saw an opportunity, what was missing. And if you can jump into that a little bit.
Yeah, so I think for us, right, we came to this from an outside perspective. We pivoted into this business from something totally different. As we became exposed to what customer service looks like, right? Everybody has had a frustrating experience from the consumer side. We began to get a little bit of a look behind the curtain at like, what does it look like on the back end? And the big insight that we kind of landed on, and I don't think that it's necessarily breakthrough in any way as much as it kind of gets lost in the shuffle of the day-to-day, is that the underlying problem is that there are too many requests coming in for too few agents, right? It's pretty simply a capacity problem that is then trickling down into all of these other issues, right? Be it hold time, be it restricted hours, restricted channels, agent burnout and churn, like whatever it might be. A lot of that is boiling back to this just core issue of there's a certain volume coming in, and then there's the budget constraints and the staffing constraints associated with fulfilling those. And the question for us was, hey, like, is there an opportunity to change the math on this, right? And to come in and say, hey, for these simple calls, right, the ones that Jack was talking about and that you highlighted in the study, is there an opportunity to come in and say, hey, we're going to, right, these people want quick and easy. We're going to give them quick and easy for the simple things, and we're going to do it with high CSAT scores at a fraction of the cost, which is then, right, it's not about saving money to go and eliminate the workforce, right? The workforce is drowning right now, right? The workforce needs help. So just being able to then free up those people. And for us, we always thought about it, right? We thought about it from the standpoint of Jack, the business owner's metrics and what he's judged on. We thought about it from the standpoint of the consumer and, right, what you're looking for from a consumer side, right? Start from that foundation of quick and easy. The thing that's been interesting to us is this whole third layer and stakeholder being the agents coming into the fold, and the feedback that we've gotten from the agent side of things of like, wow, finally have room to breathe. And like the phone is the most cumbersome channel, and like being able to offload phone volume and focus on other channels. All of that for us, right? And it just comes back to like, okay, if you can identify the root cause of a problem, if you can unhook that, then you're going to see the trickle down into every dimension of the problem. And that was kind of the insight for us, then looking at everything going on with voice technology and like, okay, there's an opportunity here. Let's go after it.
And I'll try to paraphrase a couple. We had a couple questions come in that I'll try to paraphrase really for you, Jack, in terms of like, it sounds like you were kind of at that tipping point where you're like, we either need more people, or maybe you were, I don't know if you were starting to hire more people and then looking like, okay, this is not sustainable to keep hiring people to maintain the amount of communications coming in. So there's that. And then also, and then deciding, okay, well, which of these ones are we going to offload? Like, how do we prioritize what we'll offload? So yeah, in terms of staffing, and then making those decisions of like, okay, what are we going to automate?
Sure. Brian touched on two really, really key things in his last piece, and it would first be around the KPIs that I use to define success for my team. And really, our key performance indicators really just boil down to how quickly we can solve a problem on any communication channel, and how our customers feel about that. And it's true, the agent experience is something that's not always the first thing that's addressed. And I started as an agent on this team, and I love the phones, and I know what it was like to go sit on and take 75 phone calls in one day. I know exactly what that feels like, and it's hard. And it feels like when you go home, you don't even have any time to do anything else because you're just so drained. The phone calls that I remember the most were the ones that I was speaking to a customer that was really letting me into their life. And this is like a company ethos at our brand. And it's really to really be able to put yourself in the customer's shoes. And when I felt how my agents were really spending time just like me with the customers that really needed it. I mean, I remember getting on the phone with a customer telling me that they got robbed, and some of their bedding was actually taken from them as well. And we immediately set them up with a replacement. It just felt like I had changed someone's life that day. And that's why I love CX. That's why I'm even sitting here right now. But in terms of, when we think about those customers, the ones that really need us, those are where I want my agents to spend their time, because that's how I know they're going to have a fulfilling day. And that's why when we kind of look at our KPIs and we realize, hey, this is how quickly we're solving problems. One of our new KPIs would be the automation rate at Red Route. How many phone calls is Red Route actually fully taking control over on a weekly basis? And we could check the intents. We could check exactly what they were calling about. And that's how I can test. And that's how I know that the customers that maybe do have that bad day and really do need to talk to an agent, they're the ones talking to an agent. And that's exactly how we've set it up. So that feels good.
Nice. I don't know if this is a serious question, but somebody wants to know if the voice assistant can tell us the difference between a queen size and a full size sheet. Was that just a joke?
Yeah,
is that an inside joke? I don't know what that is.
Those are two very specific products on our site. So yes, I would say that Red Route would understand what's in your order, or what's on Shopify, and we would have to be able to differentiate between F for full, and then of course Queen, which is yes, Queen.
And also some free advice. If you have some family members, like, I don't know, let's say like my mom, for example, and she's been maintaining the same bed sheets for many years, what you can do is you buy her all new sheets for her guest room and her room. And so when you go visit, you get to be on Brooklinen sheets. And it seems like it was her idea the whole time. I'm just putting that out there.
I love it. That seems like a customer that would take a phone call today. So, maybe this afternoon I'll jump on the phone and we can chat it out.
Right on. So in terms of that, well, let me pause, Brian or Derek, if there's anything that was sparked for you. Otherwise, I'm definitely interested in kind of getting into, because our time is flying by, but getting into like, okay, well, what did the engagement look like? But before we do
I'm
that,
gonna
anything?
chime in, yeah, I was going to
Yeah.
chime in with one thing.
Yeah.
The interesting thing to me about what you said was, right, really it's ultimately about how quickly are you answering and solving people's problems. One, that ties back directly to what we were saying from the consumer side about it's all about the speed and ease, right? So there's that alignment between your KPIs and the reality from the consumer's perspective. And then the second piece of it is you've seen all of this, right? There's been this effort over a decade or so to move people away from the phone channel, right? And like, let's deflect people to chat, let's deflect people to email, to like FAQs on the website, all of which is, right, antithesis to that strategy, but has been done in order to manage that cash situation, right? Going back to that core insight about too much coming in for too little budget and too few staff has forced those sorts of trade-offs. Now, when you're coming back to the table and saying, okay, with this sort of product, voice is now something that can be done in a high quality, affordable way, we're starting to see customers go the other direction and be like, okay, we want to take voice. We're not going to hide it on our website. We actually want it to be front and center. We want people to go to the phone channel because our speed of resolution when somebody goes to the phone channel is faster. And that's the metric that matters. And with tools like Red Route, now that can be done in a way that works for the business financially.
Right on. Any other?
Cool. Well, hang on, I mean, just real quick on, I mean, just that identifying those initial use cases for the VA, and then I think that's what you started to get into a little bit, Jack, in terms of and we're seeing more and more end users and customers of the technology. I want to have a blueprint, something that kind of shows exactly what are ways that what are the first things I can automate, and that comes through tying it directly to KPIs, tying it directly to your business case, but also understanding just from a pure content and conversational intelligence standpoint. Is it about address? Is it about I might be glitching here, so I'm not sure, but sure. Just identifying what those what are the frequently asked questions that are coming in, and how do you quickly identify those and quickly automate them?
Sure. I think I would love to just talk about how the most attractive piece of like the initial conversation to me was the fact that, well, first, the background was that we launched right before Black Friday, Cyber Monday, which is like our Super Bowl. It's the biggest time of year for us. So we usually do like a 2-week sale event. It's really, really huge. We bring on extra agents. It's just a very serious time for us. But really, with that in mind, with our sale event in mind, Red Route had approached me a couple months prior. We really decided to launch the product a week before Black Friday, which, I mean, just maybe a round of applause really quick of how quickly. So I actually did not think this was going to work. I was like, hey, maybe we shoot for 11:30, like 11:18 is seeming really soon. Like that's like 6 days from now. The solution was up and running by 11:18. So with that in mind, so once again, that was huge. But with that in mind, one of our biggest questions during Black Friday, Cyber Monday is Wizmo. Where is my order? So one of the first things that Red Route worked with me on was connecting with our Shopify store, which is our e-com platform, and basically being able to connect with a customer's order, read the tracking information, and tell that customer where their order was. So therefore, that meant an agent in that moment could spend time upselling, for example, a customer, or helping them decide on a product that they were not sure of, as opposed to telling a customer, here's your tracking information. So that was one of our first opportunities for automation. It's something that we really, really jumped on quickly. And that's, I think, the most exciting one so far, but there's so many other cool opportunities to automate. And I know that I've been talking with a lot of your teammates about it over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, and it's interesting. We see the analytics on all of this stuff, right? Somebody comes in, they talk to the system. The first thing that we're doing is we're understanding what are they calling for, right? And then it's a question of, okay, does this fall into something that we're automating? Does it fall into something that we're not automating? Not automating, send it off to the team with the relevant information. If we are automating, then engage in the conversation. So we have all of this data around intent and how the intents change over time. And it's interesting in e-commerce. Jack touched on Black Friday, and it was certainly, right, especially for us, one of our first customers going up at that time, right? Pilot customer, new vertical, busiest time of the year, brand that all of us have heard of, that we've bought from, like a real true kind of startup story there.
Yeah,
and
if you're
like
gonna do it right.
I feel bad.
Yeah,
For, I still feel bad for Jack. I still feel bad.
Don't feel bad.
God, like, like the fact that you put your faith in us in that moment, like God knows why, and God bless your soul forever. But it was interesting for us seeing it the first year, but then really coming back in 2021, and I'm notoriously loud voice, getting told to quiet down a little bit, clearly riled up a little bit. But
You're trying to run a
interesting
company,
for us.
Brian.
Trying to speak to the world here. But anyways, just tying back to like the intents. You see through the early part of the holiday season, right? There's all of the sales that are going out immediately following the sales. This huge influx of the Wizmo calls. Where's my order? Right? People are waiting for their packages to arrive, and then it moves down the customer journey, right? So packages then arrive. The next thing that's causing a lot of support interactions is like returns, exchanges, refunds, those sorts of things, right? Loyalty credit, all of those sorts of intents. And you see when you look at the graph, right? Like Wizmo shoots up a ton and then trails off. And as it's trailing off, you see those other intents that are deeper down the customer journey start to pop up. So just an interesting tidbit.
We had another question come in, and this is, Jack, really kind of directed more towards you. So in terms of like, I'll read the question, but I think there's kind of some other bigger questions in here in terms of like, how does automation maybe change your perspective on KPIs for your agents, like average handle time, for example? When you're automating X% of those calls coming in that would normally go to humans, can you then kind of relax any of your average hold time goals because you know, okay, now these conversations might be longer, but at least I know that they're where they need to be or on the topics they need to be. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And the short answer is absolutely. I think I threw that one in there twice really quick. I think some of our KPIs are always evolving. My goals for my team this year are completely different from last year, which means that we can change, even if we have to not pull back a little bit, but even just kind of rethink the average handle time. Let's say on phones, our average handle time is 7 minutes. Let's say that's a little high, but maybe we'll shoot for 4. But I think average handle time, I would maybe weight it a little bit differently. If I was going to maybe make a scorecard for that agent, I would weight that KPI a little differently.
Right.
And something that really feeds into a KPI that's really important to us would be a QA score. We really, at my business, we take quality assurance extremely seriously. And that's really where I could say, oh, your average handle time might be down this week, but your QA score is crushing it. So we're doing a great job. So there's a lot of other KPIs to keep in mind, but the short answer would be, we can change our KPIs and we can change the goals around them at any time.
And one of the things that you and I have spoken about, Jack, is also starting to tie CX metrics back into retention metrics and like repurchase metrics, which ultimately boils up into customer lifetime value and like that whole thread.
Absolutely. And even being able to use RedRoute, and maybe RedRoute could immediately identify when we have a customer who, is having maybe has a lost package or is having a shipping issue right now versus a customer that maybe is just calling for a product chat, but really being able to do that from the very first seconds of the phone call. And I know that's what the solution does, but really just keep making that smarter and smarter and smarter so that we really can identify customers quickly and what they need.
I really love we didn't prepare for this topic, but just thinking out loud, like I really love the idea of tuning the expectations of the agents or the KPIs for the agents based on the value of automation. Like there's something, I'm really into that. I think that's a really cool topic.
Yeah, Scott, one more note on that. I think creating categories for your agents is important as well. Sometimes I have seasonal colleagues that come on for a couple months at a time. Sometimes I have colleagues that have been on my team for 2+ years. Sometimes I have colleagues that are solely based on the email channel. Sometimes they're on chat and email and phone. Sometimes they're just on phone, but really just being able to categorize them and say, if you're on these channels, these are the ballparks of where we'd like to see you on these KPIs. But it's never a problem to categorize your agents either. I find a lot of value in that.
Nice. Well, we said we do this for 45 minutes, and we're there now, and that went quickly. I mean, really, we've answered questions as they've come in. Really, what was left on my agenda was kind of like the what's next, like, if you have any thoughts on that from the Brooklinen and the Red Route perspective. It's always good to hear, like, in terms of your vision for customer service in 2022. Do you have specific goals or expectations that you're able to share anyway?
Yeah, I mean, from a high level, I mean, we've gotten a small taste of what automation feels like and what successful automation feels like. So I think we want more of that. So just the conversations I've been having with the Red Route team lately have really been around other top, conversation reasons, as we call them, or other topics of conversation, issue topics that we could really start fully automating further with Red Route. And the last thing I'll say is we are pushing our retail presence in 2022 as a small little soundbite for you guys. So it's an exciting initiative for us. We will have new retail outlet. Right now we have two. We have Williamsburg and Brooklyn and the West Village of Manhattan. So we are really pushing that this year. So even finding out ways that Red Route can help with store experiences, physical store experiences, because we have calls coming into those stores as well. But though that's kind of a forward thinking soundbite that I'm really excited about.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Yeah. And then, Brian, from your perspective, I think one thing that, in my previous life, I was doing a lot of content strategy, but it was very much around understanding grammar models and the way that people say things in order to take them through a dialogue flow, sometimes just to give them an answer, not even create a transaction. And then when I think about Red Route and I kind of picture all these e-commerce backends, which are not necessarily like it's like maybe it's a return or Wismo or something like that. Like the endpoint is like information in a database. You're trying to map the automation and the intent recognition to the actual transaction, the actual record in the database of the e-commerce platforms. Like that, it's a slightly different way of looking at intent recognition through automation. But anyway, enough about me. Brian, if you have any kind of thoughts on...
Yeah, and I think on that point, right, so Jack touched on, right, continuing to add more automation. We just had a pretty major release in the last couple of weeks, adding like a half dozen new intents into the platform that are supported, which is exciting, always continuing to kind of push that dial. And then the integrations is a huge piece of the puzzle, right? And when we looked at e-commerce again, it was part of what we were excited about was the open ecosystem and the developed and kind of modern back-end systems. As we've gone deeper, we're continuing to add more and more integrations and getting deeper into the tech stack where we can, right, one, access more data that's going to allow us to be more intelligent with the customer in real time on the phone, but also at the same time be able to take more sophisticated actions in the system of record. So when you talk about returns platforms and loyalty platforms and these different things, that's definitely a piece of the puzzle. Speaking broadly on going forward into 2022, I think there are two things that we're kind of seeing. I think that automation, right, it started and there was like pretty good adoption in the chat-based channels on email and phone. Obviously, we're coming into the fold into this market and now making it possible and available and easy to do well on the voice channel. And I think that there's the value and the impact on KPIs around automation has been understood. But going back to your slide from the report, the challenge has been like, how hard is it to deploy, right? I remember hearing old stories from deploying a conversational IVR vendor from a decade ago. And it's like, this was a 24 to 36 month project and we spent $10 million on it. And there was a team of like dozens of people working on the project. And that model is just never going to work for your non-Fortune 500 companies. So part of what we're unlocking here is like, hey, there's this thing that has clear impact that it delivers that's just not accessible to people. And now we're opening that up and making it available to companies of all sizes and really making it fit with their buying model, where it's like, hey, they come in, they buy SaaS products. Now you can get this sort of technology through that sort of delivery model. So that's number one, like just the ability to make it accessible by making it easy to turn on, and the adoption that that's going to drive in a tool that has clear impact associated with it. And then the second thing is, and we've touched on it in different threads through the conversation, I think that as this technology starts to really get out there, and we are early in the development of the market, but as it really starts to get out there, and as providing a good experience over the phone becomes possible and affordable, you're going to see the resurgence of the voice channel and the phone channel. And this, like, if it was teetering in the direction of is phone going to die, it's going to take a hard 180 and accelerate up the ramp. And voice is going to be a priority because it's all about giving quick resolution to people's problems. And now it can be done well without an arm and a leg and putting your career on the line. So that's what I'm seeing.
Yeah, and that's kind of comes full circle to the modern tech stack and the expectations of Brooklinen, and Brooklinen is not alone. The expectation is that things should interoperate, play nicely, provide measurable outcomes, and in your case, 5 to 7 days preferably. So, all right. Well, Jack Lorenzen, Brian Schiff, Derek Top, thank you all for joining today. We'll wrap up the talk now. Somebody says, thanks, it's been amazing. Big thanks to everyone involved. I'd like to thank the power company for showing up as soon as we started this for the first time in 10 years. But all right. So again, stay tuned. We have a Red Route white paper coming out shortly. That's a nice companion to this. Thanks everyone for joining. Thanks for your questions, and talk to you soon.
Right on.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
And talk.